I'm a 27-year-old guy living in Denver, Colorado. About 8 months ago, I signed a 1-year lease on a 2-bedroom apartment with my college friend, Jake. Rent was $2,400 a month, so we each paid $1,200 plus utilities. We split everything evenly, and for the first few months things were great. Jake was easygoing, paid rent on time, and respected personal space. Then he started dating a woman named Ashley. At first she came over once or twice a week, then weekends, then entire weeks. By the 3rd month of their relationship, I realized something strange. Ashley practically lived with us. She had clothes in our washing machine. Her makeup covered the bathroom sink. Her groceries filled half the refrigerator. She even started ordering Amazon packages to our apartment. But she never paid a single dollar toward rent or utilities. I didn't want to start drama, so I casually mentioned it to Jake. "Hey man, Ashley's here almost every day now. Maybe she should chip in for utilities," Jake laughed. "Dude, don't be so uptight, she's basically family." Family? I'd known her for barely 10 weeks. I let it go, big mistake. A month later, my electric bill doubled. Water usage skyrocketed. Our grocery bills mysteriously kept disappearing because Ashley had no problem eating food she'd never bought. One Saturday morning, I woke up craving the expensive steaks I'd bought the night before. Gone, every single one. Ashley smiled while making breakfast. "Oh, we cooked those last night, hope you don't mind." Didn't mind. Those steaks cost almost $70. Jake didn't even apologize, instead he shrugged. "You should have labeled them." That was the first time I realized they genuinely believed everything in the apartment belonged to them. From then on, little things kept happening. Ashley invited her friends over without asking. They watched movies in the living room until 2 a.m. She adjusted the thermostat constantly because she was always cold. She even rearranged the furniture because she thought my setup looked depressing. One evening, I came home from work and couldn't unlock my own front door. The deadbolt had been changed. I called Jake. "Why doesn't my key work?" "Oh yeah," he said casually. "Ashley wanted to feel safer, so we changed the lock." "You what?" "We were gonna give you the new key eventually." Eventually. It was my apartment too. I stood outside for almost an hour waiting for them to come home. That night I finally had enough. I told Jake we needed to talk. I explained that Ashley had been living there rent-free for nearly 3 months. She used utilities, she occupied common areas, she ate my food, and changing the locks without telling me crossed every possible line. Jake rolled his eyes. "Dude, you're acting jealous." Ashley nodded dramatically. "I think he just doesn't like seeing us happy." I actually laughed, because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jealous? I had a girlfriend. She rarely even visited because I respected that it was a shared apartment. I wasn't jealous. I was tired of paying for 3 adults. The conversation went nowhere, so I emailed our landlord. I simply asked a question: "Does our lease allow a guest to live here permanently without being added?" The landlord replied the next morning. "No, any guest staying longer than 14 consecutive days had to be approved, screened, and officially added to the lease, or they had to leave." I thought the issue was finally solved. I forwarded the email to Jake. 5 minutes later, my phone exploded, 20 missed calls, dozens of angry texts. Ashley called me a snitch. Jake accused me of trying to make them homeless. Then came the message that completely stunned me. "Ashley and I talked. And we've decided it would be better if you moved out." I stared at my phone in disbelief. I was on the lease. Ashley wasn't. She had never paid rent, yet somehow, they believed I was the one who should leave. That was the moment I decided. If they wanted a war over the apartment, I was going to make sure they lost it legally. I didn't answer any of Jake's calls. Instead, I drove straight to the leasing office during my lunch break. I showed the property manager the email chain and explained everything. She looked genuinely surprised. "Wait, she's been living there for 3 months," I nodded, "and she's not on the lease." "No," the manager sighed. "That's a lease violation." She pulled up our file and printed a copy of the agreement, right there in black and white. Guests couldn't stay longer than 14 consecutive days without written approval. Ashley wasn't approved. The manager said she'd inspect the apartment later that week. I thanked her and went back to work. That evening when I got home, Jake was waiting. His arms were crossed. Ashley sat on the couch pretending to cry. Jake didn't even say hello. "You seriously went to the landlord?" I asked a question. "You betrayed me." I couldn't believe it. "Betrayed you? You've been breaking the lease." Ashley suddenly stood up. "You've made me feel so unwelcome." I blinked. Unwelcome. She had literally been living in my apartment for free. Then Jake dropped another bomb. "We're serious about you moving out." I laughed. "Okay, who's taking over my half of the lease?" Silence. Ashley looked at Jake. Jake looked at the floor. Finally, he admitted, "We figured you'd just remove your name." "So, you want me to stay financially responsible while you two live here?" Neither of them answered. That told me everything. The next afternoon, the property manager arrived for the inspection. Ashley answered the door wearing pajamas. She immediately claimed she was just visiting. Unfortunately for her, the apartment told a different story. Women's shoes lined the hallway, her shampoo and makeup covered the bathroom, half the closet belonged to her. Packages with her name were stacked beside the dining table. Even her laptop sat on the kitchen counter. The manager quietly took notes. Before leaving, she said, "I'll be contacting both leaseholders." The very next morning, we each received an official notice. Either Ashley had to apply for the lease immediately, or she had to move out within 7 days. Otherwise, both tenants would face lease enforcement. I thought that would end it. Instead, Jake blamed me for everything. He refused to speak to me. Ashley slammed doors every time I walked past. Then they started playing games. They unplugged the Wi-Fi router while I worked from home. My laundry mysteriously ended up soaking wet on the floor. Food I'd bought disappeared almost overnight. One evening I opened the freezer. Every frozen meal I'd prepared for the week was gone. Ashley smiled. We thought they were ours. That was the last straw. I installed a small camera inside my bedroom. I also bought a mini fridge with a lock within 2 days. The camera recorded Jake entering my room while I was at work. He searched my desk, opened my closet, even tried opening my safe. When I confronted him with the footage, he didn't deny it. Instead, he yelled, "You don't trust us anymore." I stared at him in disbelief. "You broke into my room." Ashley crossed her arms. "It's not breaking in, we live here too." No, Jake lived there, she didn't, and soon. Neither of them would, because the landlord had just called me with news that changed everything. She said, "I think you should come by the office tomorrow morning. There have been some developments." The tone in her voice made me realize. Jake and Ashley had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, I walked into the leasing office expecting another warning. Instead, the property manager smiled. "I'm glad you came." She closed the office door and placed a folder on the desk. "We've been reviewing security footage." I frowned. "Security footage?" She nodded. "Our maintenance staff reported several complaints about your apartment. Apparently, other tenants had noticed Ashley coming and going every day for months. But that wasn't the biggest problem. The security cameras had also caught Jake letting another person into the apartment building using the residents-only entrance after midnight, someone who wasn't authorized to be there. Combined with Ashley's unauthorized residency, it was enough for management to take formal action. The manager slid a document across the desk. "We're giving Jake 2 options. Either Ashley leaves immediately and he follows every lease rule from now on, or we'll terminate his lease for repeated violations." I asked the question I'd been wondering all week. "What about me?" She smiled. "You've cooperated with us the entire time. As long as you want to stay, your lease is secure." For the first time in weeks, I could finally breathe. That evening, I came home to absolute chaos. Jake was pacing around the living room. Ashley was yelling into her phone. Boxes were scattered everywhere. The moment Jake saw me, he exploded. "Are you happy now?" I calmly replied. "I didn't break the lease." "You did." Ashley pointed at me. "You ruined our lives." I looked around the apartment. "No, your choices did." Neither of them had an answer. 2 days later, Ashley moved out. She slammed the front door so hard that a picture frame fell off the wall. Jake barely spoke to me after that. He spent most of his time locked in his bedroom, desperately searching for another apartment. A week later, he handed the landlord his notice and moved out before the end of the month. When the apartment finally became quiet again, it honestly felt strange. No random guests, no missing groceries, no loud arguments at 2 a.m., just peace. About a month later, I found a new roommate named Marcus. Before we signed anything, we sat down over coffee. We agreed on everything. Guests could stay a few nights but not move in. Groceries stayed separate unless shared. Bills were split evenly. Any long-term visitor had to be discussed first. It took less than 15 minutes. Funny how simple respect can be. I thought the whole nightmare was over. Then one Saturday afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was Jake, the first message I'd received from him in over a month. "Hey, I owe you an apology." Apparently, Ashley had done the exact same thing at his next apartment. Within weeks, she'd stopped paying her own rent, taken over the place, and started telling him how to live. When he finally asked her to contribute financially, she dumped him. His final text made me laugh out loud. "You were right about everything." I didn't reply. There wasn't anything left to say. Sometimes the best revenge isn't yelling, arguing, or getting even. It's simply letting people face the consequences of the choices they made. As I sat in my quiet apartment that evening, eating the steak I'd bought for myself, I realized something. I hadn't just kept my apartment, I'd gotten my peace back.